Hello, and welcome back to Mostly Movies, where we mostly discuss movies.
Mostly.
And here we're actually doing a little segment on some recent trailers that we've seen. I mean, we'll get to Clerks 3, because really that's the one we want to talk about most. We have the shirt, not even supposed to be here. But let's talk about a few other ones. What did you think of Amsterdam, the trailer for that?
It looks really interesting.
Yeah, I like David O. Russell a lot. I've always been a big fan of his movies. I like his style, he's pretty good. So I'll definitely check that out at some point. That looks. I loved American Hustle. I love Silver Linings Playbook. So I'll definitely check into that one. Real quick, the David Bowie trailer, Moonage, Daydream, which really I don't know what this film is. It looks great. It looks like a concert mixed with all kinds of archival footage, and I really should have looked into it before I chose to talk about it. But it looks amazing.
It's just something different. I mean, I think with these last few Marvel movies, sort of the comic book movies sort of like jump the shark.
Yes.
And it's like we're in a new decade. We just survived this terrible thing that went on for the last few years, the pandemic, everything. I think people just want something new.
They want something
They want something different. They want to see something different.
And it was
I think like, for me, it's like, they had the last Star Wars movie in 2019. They had the last, the end game.
Avengers Endgame.
Endgame. People are done.
They want something new.
A chapter. And
we need more movies.
The way they're making franchise movies right now, it's just,
It's all falling apart because really...
we're going to talk about a sequel, but still.
Yes. That's a little different than your average franchise. Let's talk about, of course, the big one, the big trailer for one of our most anticipated films of the year, Clerks 3, which I'm really looking forward to. I always was.
There's probably not a day that goes by where my wife and I will say the line back and forth.
From Moonage?
And now we cue the music.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we say that like all the time. Like when something happens or we're ready to like leave a restaurant if our daughter's like starting up, like, she's little. Cue music. But like, my wife's
going to be a little View Askew
now
fan.
We cue the music. I'm like, you're right. That's basically the sign. It's like, okay, time to leave.
Oh, great.
It's like, Jim, get their shoes.
That's awesome. Oh, that's a deep cut.
There's so many lines from those movies.
Oh, they're actually hilarious.
My wife's a big fan of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And it's one of the funniest movies. And I saw...
it's no dogma, but it's fine. It's good. It's really good. A movie that could not be made today. I don't think any of his films from that time could be made today.
Yeah.
I really think he'd have a hard time. That's when I saw Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I'm like, well, what are they going to do?
Even Chasing Amy and stuff. Some of the movies, like, he'll push the envelope. And
well, you know what I love about Chasing Amy and what I love about a lot of his films is they're so honest. You can't really... You can dislike them if you want. You can say, I don't like this. But I think that there's an honesty to them and that there's a pure of heart, even though there's a foul mouth. Yeah, there's definitely a pure heart to his films. And Clerks 3 looks like it's very much in that same vein. And I like the idea that they are using his story about the making of Clerks. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting how they're doing that. And I really like the idea that they're going back to it. I think it's going to be really, really cool.
And I think, because at first, like when I first saw the trailer, and I liked it when I first saw it, but it gets better every time. But when I first saw the trailer, I really liked it. But then I says, will this work today? Because it's hard for me to imagine this. But this movie, the original Clerks is almost 30 years old.
Almost 30.
It's amazing to even think about that.
Clerks 2 is an old movie.
But I was thinking, I'm like, will this work with him making a movie? But again, what I said earlier, with us coming through this very hard time and stuff, and still today with, the economy the way it is and so many things going on and sickness and this and that, I think people want to see something where a bunch of people get together and make a movie.
Or get together and do something.
It doesn't have to have special effects and all this other stuff. People are done with that. They want to see reality. They, people are paying like, $6 for gas. Well, and they're dealing with all this other stuff, food shortage, this and that. They want to see something that makes them laugh.
They want to see something real.
Yeah,
they really want to see that.
I could be there. I could be that.
When I saw the first Clerks, I mean, at the time I was working in fast food. I was a kid when I saw Clerks. Maybe 17, 18 when I first saw it. And I related to
Blockbuster. You were working at a McDonald's.
McDonald's across the street. But I related so much to that film, and I said, "Wow, this is a guy that really gets it." And as much as I love Tarantino, and Pulp Fiction, of course, is a film that has just changed my entire life. When I was a teenager, I saw it at 16. Clerks was something that hit me in a more personal way. And I felt like this was not, it didn't have that California polished movie vibe about it. And it felt like it was really us. And it was me and our friends and the conversations we would have. And with probably a lot less language, but that was what really made me relate to Clerks. And let me tell you something, a lot of people bash Kevin Smith and a lot of people say, oh, his movies suck now and everything. I still like his films, and I'm a fan of Tusk, which a lot of people don't like, and I think that he's still trying new things. Like, even if you watch a film like Yoga Hosers is no Lawrence of Arabia, but again, he's still trying things. He still has things to show us as an artist, and I love Jane Silent Bob Reboot. That was one of his better films.
That was really good. I just saw it again recently.
It's really funny. And you know what it is?
It brought a lot of the cast back, a lot of the whole cast from other movies.
Oh, yeah. And he's, thank goodness.
He was like coming full circle.
And Ben kicked out Jen, so now Ben's back in his movies. Ben's
back.
Sorry to all you Jennifer Garner fans, but she kind of got in the way of Ben being friends with... Ben is friends with Kevin Smith again because Jen got the boot. And if you go on YouTube, look up Dinner for Five with Jennifer Garner and Kevin Smith, watch how she talks to him. It's not very nice, which is odd because then they did a movie together, like right around that same time, Catch and Release. But you should watch. It's pretty. He kids around about Affleck, and she gets all pissed off, and it's not pretty. Yeah, she threatens to beat up Kevin Smith, basically, and stuff. And his response to her is great. If you watch it, by the way, Dinner for Five with Jon Favreau, all you people that are talking about The Mandalorian and all the Favreau Star Wars, the best thing he ever did was this show in the 90s called Dinner for Five, and early 2000s, I believe it was. He'd get a bunch of independent artists and actors and people together, and they would just have frank conversations about everything. And the one with Roger Corman is very good. And Stan Lee and them. So please seek that out. But back to Clerks 3, what do you think this movie is going to be? What are your expectations of this film?
I think it's going to, really round out, because with Clerks now, you have Clerks 1 and 2, which are
great movies.
And then you have Clerks 3. You also have that TV show that was
the Clerks cartoon is amazing.
And then, of course, the Clerks, Dante and Randall appeared in other
films. Did you see Jane Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie?
I didn't see that one.
That one, I think I have it somewhere. I got to lend it to you. It's very funny.
So that's funny that they have 3 movies. They
have a trilogy.
So they have a trilogy. It's Jane Silent Bob. Because I did see Reboot and I liked it. But I think with this one, I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's just what we need now. One thing about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, it came out in August. I think it was late August 2001.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know what happened in September
of 2001.
And I remember seeing it in the summer. We saw it opening day. I think we saw it twice. We loved it. We went right back into the movie theaters.
But
I had a few people there that I'm like, you want to see it with us? Let's see it again.
I remember we saw it.
They flaked out, but I'm like,
third time.
And when I saw it after, everything happened with 9/11 and stuff, I was like, there's something about Kevin Smith's movies that, even when we saw Clerks, it was the year that Grandma passed away.
Yeah.
And and then Clerks 2 was when our other grandma passed away. It was like,
isn't that ironic?
His movies come out now. I'm afraid that Clerks 3 is coming out.
Oh God!
But no, what I'm saying,
thanks, you've just doomed us all.
No, I don't want to say like an omen or something. But the thing is, what I'm saying is that his movies,
we are able to
came
turn
out
off
at the right time. And
we saw Clerks late. We still didn't see it till 98.
I says, am I still gonna laugh again?
Yeah.
Am I gonna see this movie? And I got it on DVD a few months after 9/11, and I'm like, am I still gonna laugh again? Am I still gonna have fun? And sure enough, when they're with the monkey and they're doing their thing with Suzanne, and they're like, hey, this is funny, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of cheesiness in his movies, but that's what it's about. And some people don't get Kevin Smith. To me, I think, we grew up in the suburbs of Staten Island, so his suburbs of Jersey are very similar in a lot of different ways. And it's just, he understood it. He got it with the whole clerking thing and the whole retail, because we've worked a bunch of retail jobs.
Oh, yeah. Actually, at one time in my life, there was a time where really life was imitating art, where I was working in a video store and then go work an overnight shift at a convenience store for a little while. I did that for a couple of months, and then I just, I couldn't do both jobs anymore. And I really was living the Clerks life when that happened. But you know what? I mean, what's great about a movie like Clerks or Mallrats, Dogma is one that I like a lot. Dogma's brilliant. But you know what it is about his movies? Sometimes you can go back and watch, especially his old stuff, and it really takes you back to the time when you first saw it. Like, we rented the tape of Clerks. We didn't see it when it first came out, which was funny because we were big movie buffs. For some reason, we just never got around to it. And then we finally rented it in 98. And then immediately I had to watch Mallrats and I had to watch Chasing Amy. And Mallrats is a movie that the first time I was kind of cool to it because it wasn't Clerks at all. It was very different. But now it's grown on me. It's one of my favorite movies. And Chasing Amy, I loved right off the bat. And Dogma. And pretty much most of his movies since, I've either liked or loved. There's no Kevin Smith film that I could look at and say, that's a horrible movie and I hate that movie. And a lot of people say that about Tusk, but I think Tusk is actually really, really crazy, but I like it. It's an insane film. But I just think his movies, they really they are funny, and they're not supposed to be like any greater truths about life, but I think that they're simple and they're sweet. They're well-intentioned movies, and I think he is going to do some really good stuff with this movie. It's good to see Jeff Anderson back, because getting Jeff Anderson back, the reason why they didn't make Clerks 3 a couple of years ago, they wanted to make it like in maybe 2017 or so, or 18. They didn't do it though because it was a different script at the time, and he did not want to do it, Jeff Anderson. So recently they had like a table read, I believe it was last year or the year before, where they did like a table read of the script. But then Jeff Anderson got back and wanted to do it again. And, without Randall, you can't make a Clerks movie. So I'm kind of glad that Kevin Smith is smart and he keeps all these scripts and he doesn't just throw them in the shredder because one guy says no at the time. Because no can go a long way around to becoming yes. And that, to me, is the point of Kevin Smith, where a lot of his stuff, a lot of people told him no, and a lot of doors closed in his face. But then give it a little bit of time, and then people will be interested again. And I really have high hopes for this film. Again, whatever happens in the movie, good or bad, or if we don't like it or anything like that, I just think that I'm glad that they're making it. And I really want to see these people again. I want to see Dante and Randall and Elias and just see what they're up to 15, 16 years later.
I mean, to see the cast again and...
yeah, it's great.
In a movie that, again, the original one was almost 30 years ago. And, it's just the way Kevin Smith just got into the business and how he just... came up from obscurity and everything. But I still remember that VHS cover with the whole cast on it. And
yeah, the most stolen tape, and you worked in a Blockbuster, it was the most stolen tape at Blockbuster because people saw this movie. And again, Miramax used to do a thing because Miramax idiots, they were stuck in the 80s and they used to charge a lot for their VHS tapes. Clerks was a $30 tape. Like Pulp Fiction was like $90. Yeah, believe it or not, that's why we taped Pulp Fiction off a pay-per-view. Remember pay-per-view, kids? We taped Pulp Fiction off a pay-per-view, and I watched it so many times that I memorized the entire film. I can recite any line of dialogue. Someone comes up to me and starts saying something from Pulp Fiction, I can finish it. Especially Sam Jackson's lines, I had down perfectly. The intonations and everything, but that's a video for another time. I think this movie is going to be really, really good. And I think that, Clerks is the beginning of all things Kevin Smith. And it's where he worked as a kid. He made that movie when he was in his 20s. He was 24, I think, at the time. And it could have just as easily not ever been picked up. And it could have just been sitting in a pile with a bunch of other movies that never got picked up. But Miramax bought it, and they charged way too much for the tape, and that's why everybody stole it. Not us. We waited until it was on IFC, I believe I taped it off of. And don't worry, Paramount, who owns Miramax. They own the whole library. Don't worry, I bought it on DVD, and I also own it on Blu-ray, and I bought the 10th anniversary edition. So I recorded it off IFC in the late 90s, but I think
we have a signed edition, too.
Yes, we got a signed edition. We got the 10th anniversary signed. And
we met Kevin Smith
at the Blu-ray. We met
at
Kevin.
his comic book store.
Yeah, we have a picture up there
Clerks Two
somewhere,
came out.
right behind us up here. And right behind your head is the picture of us meeting Kevin in 2006. And a guy that really loves his fans and is very good to his fans. And sometimes the fans aren't good to him. But that, as they say, is that. Is there anything else about Clerks 3? Think of? I can't wait for the soundtrack.
Think of other
I'm
movies
hoping
that I'm really like those other two you mentioned. The
Halloween Ends. I want to see,
Halloween.
and I want to see Clerks 3.
It's time for Halloween to end.
Well, I think that one of my most anticipated movies of the year was Thor: Love and Thunder, which I did not like. So I'm a little worried about Clerks 3, and I'm a little worried about Halloween Ends.
Do you think it's going to have that third movie type?
It might. It might, but I'm hoping it's like the new Planet of the Apes series, which all three of those were very good.
They'll probably make jokes about it, like the third one.
Yeah, well, you know what it is?
But there are some third movies that are really great.
It depends. It depends. If your second movie is not amazing, the third movie usually turns out to be pretty good. One of the rare cases is Star Trek, where the second movie is great and the third movie is really good too. Like Harry Potter, the second movie's all right, so the third movie is really good. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, like in the case of Alien and a few other franchises, after two, it's funny you should mention
Star Trek, where Star Trek and Harry Potter. Star Trek, the even ones, except for 3, the even ones are really good, and then in Harry Potter, I think the odd ones are the best.
Yeah, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And 8, because I guess it counts as 8. The Deathly Hallows. I had to buy 2 tickets for that movie.
2 tickets.
Gosh. But Clerks 3 looks great. Definitely horns up. We want to definitely check it out. So we'll talk to you guys soon. When it comes out, we should do a review.
I guess thumbs up is copyrighted.
Thumbs up is copyrighted. We're going to get in trouble with that one. But horns is not.
Jazz hands.
And I don't do so much the metal one because that's evil, but this is like, whatever. You could do the closed fist or the open fist. I like doing the open one because we don't want to summon any demons.
Oh, no.
We've got enough of those running around.
No, we don't know.
Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk more about these movies when we see them. All right? Thanks. Keep watching. Watch the skies.